Hello, Lucy. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm really excited and have been looking forward to this chat.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Lisa. I have been looking forward to this as well. It's been a while since we scheduled, I think.
Where are you joining us from today?
So I am in Carlsbad, California, so it's just north of San Diego.
I love San Diego. I've been there a few
Yeah.
times back in 2017. Just so beautiful with the
Um,
ocean vibes.
it is, and the
Yeah,
cliff sides and everything. I love it.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm in Calgary, well, just outside of Calgary in Alberta in Canada. So there ain't no
Oh,
ocean by
nice.
me. I am not coastal in any way, shape, or form right now.
Yeah, you're inland.
Yeah, exactly. So I have so many things I want to discuss with you today, but I think first and foremost, I'd love to know just a little bit more about you and what has led you to the work that you currently do.
Oh, that is always a loaded question.
It's so loaded. It's so loaded.
I'll give you the condensed version as best as
Hmm.
possible. Um, well, I like to pretty much bring it to a couple of catalysts. So one big catalyst is I've always been very um, passionate about connecting with people and helping people in some capacity. It looked very different back when I was involved in the evangelical church growing up as a
Mm.
pastor's kid. It looked very different then than it does now, as you can already see. Um, but a big catalyst for me in was actually about when was it? It was 2015 when it started. 2016 when it really kicked in. That's when I had my fourth child. And my husband at the time, we're now divorced, was going through 2.5 years of depression and disability. And so there was there was so much that we hadn't tapped into in our traumas and our wounding and our all these things, repressed emotion that were manifesting physically. So during my fourth pregnancy, I actually developed an autoimmune disorder as well.
Mm.
So I was taking care of three children and working and taking care of a husband who couldn't do much and pregnant. So my body rebelled and said, "Listen, we can't do this this way anymore. We got to change some things." So yeah, that set me on a whole spiritual journey. And I had already been kind of deconstructing my faith for a bit. And that really catapulted me to explore options that I previously wouldn't have allowed myself to. So I found a lot of different healing modalities. I was already coaching people for years at that point. So I started to integrate those healing modalities into my work and seeing the way that it was helping people to heal. And so I just kept going deeper into that. And eventually Ryan, he started to do the deeper emotional work and trauma healing and started to go on this deeper journey with himself. So we had some beautiful years of healing and really connecting in a whole new depth and healing our families. And so that was a big catalyst. And then, of course, COVID, I think, was a big catalyst for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
That allowed me the space to explore more of my deeper, darker psyche, I like
Mm.
to call it. So I started to get deeper into my dark feminine, deeper into my erotic embodiment. I started pole dancing right before COVID lockdowns happened, like the month before. So I was already set at home with my pole, and I just did that every single day that whole year. Um, and started getting deeper into my ancestral connections and reconnecting in that way, um, opening up spiritually and sexually with myself. So that was a big, big catalyst. And then most recently, my divorce has been an
Mm.
incredible catalyst. When you have your heart shattered open, you
Yeah.
really see what you're made of. Like there is so much love, so much more love that I have the capacity for now that
Mm.
I didn't before this. So yeah, the work that I do is very, very personal to me because it's all stuff that I have walked through and continue to practice and embody in my daily life.
Mm. Well, thank you so much for sharing those words. That's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot to process.
I mean, as so many people's journeys, right? All of these different relationship containers and what it looks like to really go into the depths, even while being held in a container, a relational container in which you feel
Yes.
safe. And there seems to be no end to the depth that we can even access within that maybe at one time in our lives was concealed from us. I can relate. Being in a 12-year partnership myself, I can definitely say that we've seen a lot of things, some
You
really,
do.
really joyful and really beautiful. And then the darkness that comes with disability and chronic pain and managing so many things all at once. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring that into the fold as well. So thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. And then also the conscious uncoupling that
Yeah.
happens. I feel like so often people think that because there's an ending that we failed,
Hmm. Yeah.
or like so much of our identity is tied into what we've created and what we have in the relationship, in our intimate partnership. And it's like, who are we outside of that?
Yeah.
And how can we also build that within our relationship? So I guess that would come into my next question for you. Like, how has
Yeah.
this journey of conscious uncoupling been for you in the midst of loving so deeply and being so open that it hurts? Like that's
Yes. 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 That it's an overwhelming love. It just like you could drown in it, but you
that's
don't.
right. Yeah, but you don't. Yeah.
I think what a lot of people haven't realized until this point of uncoupling, is that this has been years in the making, not the divorce, but this depth of connection with love itself. And it never was dependent on my relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It just wasn't. I had to cultivate that from within. And I think that um, the perception could have been, and it became clear to me that for many, the perception was that my relationship was a source of that.
Mm.
And so it's the things that worked in my relationship only really thrived because this came from something deeper.
Yeah.
And the thing that sustained us both in going our separate ways with love and no, ill feelings. There was a lot to work through to genuinely get to that point and say, I regret nothing. And this is the evidence or the fruit of years and years of doing the deeper work
Mhm.
within ourselves. And that was what we did too in our marriage. We did our work individually, and then there was the container of relationship where we really got to practice and put in the put in the reps.
Got to
But yeah,
put
that's
in
why I
those
bring it back.
reps.
Yeah, you got to put in those reps. But I bring it back to like all the courses that I have for women. They're about reclaiming yourself, your voice, your pleasure,
Yeah.
your sovereignty, and how to be interdependent
Yeah.
with a partner in that.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I find that in a lot of the work that I do as well with attachment and
Yes.
relationship coaching and somatic healing and trauma therapy and all of that is uh, this, it's more like it's a codependence, right? But it hasn't quite evolved into interdependence where it's like we've got these two really strong trees with their own foundations and how they
Yes.
move and sway together while being separate, while having
Yeah.
separate spaces. I love
Yeah.
what you said about each of us was required to do the work separately, but then be held by the relationship container, because really that's what I feel it is. It's like
Yeah.
all of these times where we feel, maybe motivated to do certain things because we want to be better partners. And really, what it comes down to is like, how can we cultivate that relationship and be a better partner to ourselves
Hmm.
in all the ways, in all of our
Yeah.
desires? And what happens when we truly get into contact with those desires, with those passions, with this inner source that's like so powerful and so big and so full of love that it can just hold all the shit, the
Yeah.
good shit, the bad
Yes.
shit, and everything in
All the
between,
crazy shit.
all the crazy shit, the batshit crazy,
That
all of
shit
it,
crazy.
because there's so much
Yeah.
there to be
The whole range.
experienced, and when each person is doing their own work, it gives us grit to go through the hard times, the separations, the like, if you're an entrepreneur, the launch that falls on its face, like all of these
Oh,
things.
well,
It's just
yes.
building that muscle of capacity.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the deeper question too in that for me throughout the past, I can see how the universe has been preparing me for this time.
Mm-hmm.
I can see very clearly in retrospect that for the previous 2.5 years, I had been prepared very specifically, not only
Mm.
financially getting prepared, but
Yeah.
also emotionally building capacity for that range and being able to hold in my heart this capacity for the depth of grief that I experienced within marriage every time there was a death and a rebirth. And so it's like, yeah, this was just like the final climax.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and it was a lot. It was intense. It
Yeah.
was a death.
Yeah. Yeah. The holy pilgrimage back to ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like quite often what happens when we explore these depths and these truths is that coming back together still requires us to honor who we now are, even in the midst of
Yes.
facing this familiar, this comfort, everything that we've created up until that point, and having, I guess the words I want to use is the self trust to know, as you said, we've been preparing for this shit,
Yeah.
for
Yes.
years and years and years. And then it's the reflection of, wow, holy crap, all of these things.
No wonder that was intense because it was preparing. It was so fucking
It's so fucking intense. And I also
intense.
wonder within that, Lucy, how has it been to still manage all the hearts of the kids and
Yeah.
what that's been like, if you want to share? That's a pretty
Yes. Oh,
personal share.
absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah. It has been, I think that has been the most challenging part because
Yeah.
the first, I for me to hold myself and also I have had a lot of support.
Mhm.
I want to make that such a big emphasis because it's so important to not just recluse for me, to not just recluse and kind of just spiral. And I feel like I just cannot afford to do that on
Mhm.
any level. So I would have my fits and throw my tantrums and feel my feelings and cry my eyes out for the first 3 weeks. There was not a single day that I didn't cry at least 10 times each day, like deep cries, and I just let it come.
Mhm.
And the kids, they were all processing in their own ways from the start, but also it's like they've been prepared for this too
Right.
in little micro ways along the way. So they've slowly let go of certain things and expectations along the way as things kind of shifted in him throughout these past couple of years.
Mm.
So, you know, I think that it's also been a really helpful thing for them to have support because they've also had support. I've had some healers that I work with that also work with them, work with
Beautiful.
their energy, help with their, just their hearts and help them to process and talk. And so they don't have to keep it in. And the thing that I was the most terrified of through this was that I would literally recreate the abandonment wound that I had as a 14-year-old
Oh,
old in my
oof.
kids because my
Mhm.
father he had a suicidal attempt and then they took him to a mental institution and I haven't seen him since. And I
Wow.
thought, oh my God, I'm literally I'm recreating like the I'm recreating things and now holy shit. And so my team of healers and supporters were like, this is not that. This is not that. This is the redemption of that. This is what you had to walk through to really bring this cycle to completion. and heal. This relationship was extremely successful.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that we healed within it, every karmic thing that we closed, every wound that we exposed, that now we are, I'm in such an amazing place for whoever my next partner is, because he didn't have to deal with all that. That was messy. Not that it's perfect, but there's a real messy part, and that was 17 years of marriage. And so, but yeah, they've been processing in their own way. We have a very open dialogue, so we do, regroup every day. We talk. I talk to all of them, and we just see where everybody's hearts are at. And it's cool because my oldest two are teenage girls in high
Mm.
school, and so we get to just kind of hang out and be girls together and talk. And it's there's a more tight knit feeling of
Mm.
connection between the five of us now, which is really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, how beautiful is that? I think that this is what our times are calling for, is how can we treat the people in front of us, even though we're deciding to go our separate
Hmm.
ways, with like, this is a God in front of me.
Yes.
This
Yes.
is a whole being in front of me. And how can we show our kids to repair, and
Yes.
that endings
Yes.
can happen with love, and that
Yeah.
we can still be together in a different kind of way
Yeah.
instead
There,
of
there doesn't
this.
have to be hate.
That's right. It doesn't have to be hate. And granted, I mean, if
Yeah.
there's abuse and things like that involved, sometimes
Right.
connections have to be cut. But there are other times where we can approach situations like adults
Yes. With
instead of our wounded
maturity.
child.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Hence all of the inner child work really coming in handy in this context.
Yeah,
And also I healed a
absolutely.
lot more of my inner teen through
Hmm.
talking with my kids through this, telling them the things that I didn't know I needed to hear when I was that age.
Oh my
And I
God.
thought
Yes.
my biggest thing, I had a realization one day, an aha moment, where after a healing session with my girl Priscilla here, I said, I just realized that all these years I'd carried this belief that if only I had been an easier child to love,
Mm.
that my dad wouldn't have had to leave. And it's not like we had a difficult relationship. I stressed out my mom because I'm a girl existing in the world. And when you're as conservative as she was, it was stressful as fuck trying to keep me safe and not, you know. And so I thought, oh, if I would have just been easier, he wouldn't have had to leave. And I recognized how I projected that into my marriage. And I realized, though, I did make it easy. I made not easy as easy as could be,
Mm.
and loving in a nurturing place. And he still had to go. It has nothing to do with me. And so really honoring his journey, and that this is his truth. It takes a lot of courage to follow your true north at the risk of losing everything.
Oh, heavy.
And
Hmm.
so yeah, it's been, I've never seen an uncoupling like this, and I don't have any reference points. We just had to go, from our hearts
Yeah,
and follow that.
totally. It's realizing that owning our truths requires us to surrender it all, even if that means losing what's familiar and comfortable, so that both people can thrive in a way that they were meant to in this new phase of life.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So, so beautiful. And also coming back into contact with that inner teenage girl. Like,
Hmm.
that's a lot to hold, those beliefs. And when they go unquestioned for our entire lives, they are just
Yeah.
under the surface. We don't even know it, but we're operating. All the things we say, all the things we do are, for the most part, operating from these different beliefs that we hold. So, what a beautiful thing to be able to challenge that,
Yes.
and,
Yes. And
and
every
often
week
it's
there's a
through
new thing.
relationship. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Or through our healers, or through the conversations that maybe we didn't get to have. I think
Yes.
about this time when I connected with my mom, and because I was
Mm.
trying to get to know more about myself. There's a lot about my past I don't remember. And so I had asked her one day, like, how was I as a kid? Because I had this belief that I was selfish and
Oh,
self-centered
interesting.
and just like only cared about myself. And my mom was like, are you kidding me? She's like, you would come home from school and collect things like erasers, pencils, things for the kids at
Oh,
school that were in need because not everyone has what you have. That's what I would tell
oh,
her, you know? And then this other time I created a kissing corner.
oh
And the
my God.
thought I had about it is like, oh, I'm just promiscuous even then. I literally thought that. And it was like, no, I set that up because kids needed hugs and kisses that they weren't
Yeah,
getting. So I had
yeah.
all these beliefs about me being, you
Mm,
know, selfish and promiscuous. And even then I was a troublemaker, but no, what a beautiful thing to challenge that. And I could even feel as I was having this conversation with my mom, like this opening of, oh my God, like I had it wrong.
mm,
That so was not
yeah,
true.
yeah.
I think I had that conversation at 40. Like this was 3 years ago. I was like, really? I've been carrying this around
It
for
takes a
40
minute
years.
sometimes.
But that's the
To
way
blow
these things
everything.
work, right?
Yeah,
We don't
yeah,
know until we know, until we're in connection with other human beings, until we've had these like deepening experiences with ourselves that
yeah,
allows for the depths and our inner children, our inner teenagers, our inner 20-year-old, 30-year-old, 40-year, whatever it is, you know,
yeah.
to come forward and be witnessed in a new way. So,
Yes,
yeah,
yes. And there are layers. There are
so
layers,
many
and they're not
layers.
all, they can't all come up at once. It would literally overwhelm us.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
you know, one at a time. But yeah, having these weekly healing sessions has helped a lot. Just open up and now this far in, we do our sessions and it's like, oh, it
Mhm.
feels so good. There's not all this heavy grief anymore.
That's right. There's
And
a
oh,
lightness. Yeah.
so good. Yeah.
Mm. I was reading a quote because I love your Instagram page. I think I started following you, I don't know, about a year and a half ago or so.
Oh
And
wow. Whoa.
I saw you on the poll and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm like, everybody needs that poll.
Yeah.
Everybody needs that poll.
Everybody get you a poll.
That's right. Right now.
Part of the
um,
healing.
that's right. But I loved this one. I mean, I loved a lot of the quotes that you put on there, but I think a recent one was the universe doesn't reward our childish demands. It responds
Mhm.
to our recognition of our worth.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
Right. These come to me. I sit and I just allow, and
yeah.
these words come. And they're just as much messages for me as they are for anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there was this other one, I think it was on the same little, whatever you call them, the slides. The universe
Hmm.
doesn't reward us for ignoring our pain. It responds to our willingness to feel, release, and alchemize. Because truly, that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's an alchemical process that's affecting
Yes.
all of ourselves, the way that we hold our bodies, the way that we're either closed in on ourselves or open to the world, the way that we,
Hmm.
pole dance, like move, walk, are able to look at people
Yeah.
in the eyes and really just stand there saying, this is me. And it's
Yes.
perfect just as it is.
Yeah. To be fully us.
Yeah.
And that is the most, I think for me too, once I really started to tap into those darker aspects of myself
Mm,
and I wasn't scared of them anymore, because
yeah.
half of my chart is Scorpio,
Yeah.
you
I hear
know?
that. Hmm.
Yeah.
I got a
And
lot
then
of
the other
Scorpio
half is
too.
pretty much Sagittarius. I
Me
have like
too.
I'm seven equal parts Scorpio and Sagittarius. So I tell people, you're either gonna get my fun, like crazy, goofy side, or my really dark and
That's right.
serious, and we're gonna die today and be reborn, in the
Hmm.
underworld. And so that alchemical process does come naturally to me.
Yeah.
Scorpio is the most intense sign of the zodiac. And so
Hmm.
once I really recognized how much me that was, I really got to tap in. And so these cycles of death and rebirth, they just happen again and again and again. And we're just in it. We're just in it. And
Hmm.
then part of my thing personally is actually sharing in as much real time as possible.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I got such deep confirmation of that through this process of uncoupling with my people that I've worked with that are professionals in astrology
Yeah.
and medium work and everything. Like, yeah, this is literally what heals you is sharing the
Mm.
process as you heal others. And so
Yeah.
it's a symbiotic relationship. And the more you do that, the more these like shards these energetic shards are being released from your throat. And
Mhm.
boy, has that been true. So
So
yes to
true.
the rebirths.
Yes to the rebirth. Yeah, I can relate. Being a Scorpio rising, at
Yes,
one,
same.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, I'm like in it. I'm like, you want to go in the gutter today? Let's go. Let's
Yeah.
go. Let's roll around in the dirt. Let's
Let's
get
go
naked,
there.
run
Let's
around
get in
under
the
the moon.
soil. Yeah, let's howl at the moon. And my South Node is in Scorpio too. So that whole axis we had for those 2 years, that was fucking intense. That's
Yeah.
what prepared me for this, honestly.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah, it
Oof.
is that, oh, that understanding of there was a time where I thought that I was a Virgo rising, not to like go too deep into the astrology, but my mom gave me
You're
the
like, it
wrong
doesn't make
time,
sense.
right? I was like, no, it doesn't make any
No.
sense to me. But I had had years, okay, of readings done, thousands of
Oh
dollars.
no.
And then my mom came at me and she's like, "Oh, Lisa, I was just looking through your birth book and the time's 4:54 a.m., not 1:15." I was like, "Ugh,"
That changes
you know.
everything.
But then when I found out I was Scorpio rising, I was like, "Oh,
That
okay.
makes
Like
sense.
this
That
makes
makes sense.
sense." All of these, the journey of becoming, living, dying, going through that process
Yeah.
over and over and over again, all these deep initiations into loss and grief and chronic pain and just relationship
Yes.
woes and
Yeah.
abuse and all of that, and being able to really alchemize that for myself first and then
Mm-hmm.
share exactly as you're
Mm-hmm.
saying, because how
Yeah.
healing is that to not feel alone in that?
Yeah.
Like I'm
Yeah.
too intense, I'm too much. Oh my God, my life is just like spinning around and around, but I don't have anyone to share that with.
Yeah.
Isolation is a real thing.
Yeah. 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 And so also if you have, a Scorpio rising, then you might have a Leo in the 10th house. That's my only Leo
Mm,
placement in my entire chart. And it's like,
mm,
hey, we're here to share and be seen about these things.
that's right.
Um, yeah.
Which isn't always comfortable.
No, no, but
Usually it's
it
not
does become
comfortable.
more normal. It's
Yeah.
been about 5 years of sharing very openly, and the first few were definitely the hardest. The last couple has just been like, oh, this is me. This is me now. This is what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. So beautiful. And we're all so grateful for it. We get
Yes,
to take these wisdom nuggets
it
from you.
brings these people, these like-hearted, like-minded people that are at this level of openness and
Mm,
consciousness, and that has been amazing to see this community of people
yeah.
that is there.
So I'm wondering within that, a question that I have, and I think you've spoken about this probably in one of your lives or on one of your posts, but that difference between getting out of your comfort zone and abandoning yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it is a
Ooh.
fine line. And
Hmm.
there is so much nuance in this. So it's not something I can really spell out. You've got to really feel
Mhm.
into it in your individual context and situation. But for me, what I found was that as a woman who is devoted to love, the source of love that equates God, goddess, universe, this oneness, this consciousness, that love. I'm devoted to that. And so my marriage was a secondary, it was a place for me to flow that love into, for me
Yeah.
to practice that devotion, right? So um, I had a lot of practice in getting out of my comfort zone, which is more just like my preferences, my ego's preferences. Like, I
Mm.
don't want to apologize. I don't want to have to, like make my thing wait. I want to do my thing now. And
Mm.
I need it now. But for me to recognize that there's a deeper truth for a bigger vision and something that was even more resonant than the immediate urge to have whatever thing or whatever more urge fulfilled. Um, because when we recognize that sometimes there are meant to be offerings to love
Mm.
that are not sacrifices of yourself, and you begin to feel the difference in how that actually lands in your body and in your heart, you begin to be able to discern the difference between getting out of your comfort zone and abandoning yourself. Now for me, the catalyst in our divorce it just literally came to a point where he needed to go in a direction he was so sure 100% in his heart that he needed to go in, that I knew that if I followed him there, I would be abandoning myself, because there is this big, clear vision that is exactly not that.
Yeah.
And so I've had these micro moments throughout all of these years to practice, hey, okay, what is the magical third option? Here's what you want, here's what I want. And then there's something new that we create together. And that's how relationships work. And so we both would get out of our comfort zones and expand our capacity to love each other while still honoring our truths. No one had to give up their truth. And we knew that if it ever came to a point where one of us would have to do that, then that's the point where we have to say goodbye to the marriage and the relationship changes form.
Yeah.
So it really is something that each person has to feel deeply into and notice, is there any resentment if I'm choosing to do this? Is there any, do I feel like the other person owes me something now because I'm doing this for them, or I'm doing this for the relationship? Because we as women, especially, we are incredible martyrs.
That's right.
And that's something to really be aware of.
Yeah.
And that's why we bring it back to this source and we connect with that deeper. I like to work very intimately with the mother. So the God as the mother, and let her, work these things out in me and purify the little like angst and the anxiousness and the entitlements and all of that, so that I can get down to the core of what it is I'm really here to do.
Right. Yeah. And I think that you're hitting the nail on the head with, I mean, this is the importance of the work, is that so that we can get down to the nuance of a lifetime of potentially people pleasing and doing things outside of our own wholeness, not moving from our own center in order to be something for someone else, rather than to be someone for us. And quite often that does look like abandoning ourselves and not knowing our boundaries or doing questionable things that can really affect us for many years to come. And so this discernment that comes from looking into the darkness and seeing what's there and holding our truths with self-compassion and saying the hard fucking things. Like the conversations, oh my God, the conversations that need to happen in a container of truth.
Yes.
And I mean, the truths, you know them, those truths that like come right here and you're like, I don't know if I say this, it could be, if I admit this piece of myself, it could mean an ending, especially if you know that your partner's not going in that direction. And those are the exact truths that set us free.
Yes. You have to go into them. And if we don't, we're either abandoning them, we're abandoning ourselves. That's what we're doing in those moments.
Yeah. It's like connecting to our wholeness and embodying our integrity, which I think that you spoke those words too. It's like, let's speak more to that, connecting to our wholeness and embodying our own integrity. Again, it's personal. Every person knows what that is for them. And sometimes we don't, when we're flailing around in the dark, sometimes it's really hard. And that's why it's important to have a team of folks that you can really count on and depend on, that can feed you and water you and check in on you when these times come up.
And friends that can call you out on your bullshit and also really see your heart and say, hey, you know what? I know this thing makes no logical sense, but I know you, and this is perfect for you. And so I'm with you, I support you, and to have your back in things that like an average person wouldn't know what to do with, but embodying our integrity. I mean, first we've got to be connected to our hearts.
That's right.
That's just a no-brainer. That is a non-negotiable. Step one, connect to your heart. And oh my God, that was years in the making for me, because it's uncovering all of these things of, what is it that I think I want because I've been told that I should want it.
That's right.
And how should I be as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, as a public, creator, as a businesswoman, but who the fuck do I want to be?
That's right.
So it's really digging past all that, and in spite of the fear and very high probability, in fact, it's guaranteed that you're going to disappoint some people, you still take that step. You know how scary it was to start pole dancing, to start talking about healing through masturbation, to start going to a nude beach and actually tell people that I'm doing that? Like it was just so always on the edge. And yet every time it set me free, it was liberating because I thought, yes, this is who I am and this is what I'm doing. And whether I do it forever or not is irrelevant. But it feels good to just be free and known for who I really am in this version of me. And so part of that is just the self-exploration too, and not hiding. Now, not everyone has to be as public as I am, or maybe you as, right? Because we're just built for this a little different. And not everyone is going to be as public. But if you just you exercise the courage to take those steps, and every time you hit that next threshold, you still just step just a little bit more. And you're doing this to honor your heart and where it is calling you to go and where your soul is compelling you to explore. And the more that you keep doing that, you build more trust in yourself, you build more trust in your inner wisdom, you build more trust in the universe that you're being guided and that it will not guide you wrong, that it's always working out for you. And that's all step one.
Step one. You guys heard that? Step one.
Somebody write this down. We need a
yeah, who's transcribing this?
Who's transcribing this? Oh, and then you follow through. Really, the next thing is following through. That's the integrity piece. Because if I know that my heart wants this particular thing in my life, and my actions are showing to the universe that I really don't, then I'm not in integrity with myself.
Right.
But it's also honoring my word. Like when I said, I'm not gonna go batshit crazy in your face anymore, to actually honor that.
Yeah.
And follow through with that and do the inner workings to my own process that needed to be done.
Yeah, this idea of truth requires action, and only you can know what that action is. And like we know when there's something we need to do and we're just not doing it.
We do know. Sometimes some people need a little extra validation.
That's right.
To say, no, yes, do the thing. You're on the right track.
Well, and we can get better at noticing those self-sabotaging patterns when we get to that kind of, what's called the upper limit, where we're about to have, a breakthrough or something's about to give. And then all of a sudden we can feel ourselves like wanting to go and hide in a cave somewhere, or like resisting the thing, or putting it off, procrastinating it. And I mean, granted, there are times when we're just not ready for certain things, but that's not that inkling. If it's true, it's going to keep coming back up. And it's going to keep on showing you itself in different ways, whether that be through life experiences or relationships or, whatever it is, like not feeling fulfilled. Because we know that feeling too, of like, man, everything's going great, but yet something is dying inside of me.
What's still missing? Yeah.
What is that?
Well, and sometimes what's dying is like this past version that
That's
it's terrified to become this one because it's new and unfamiliar. So, and that's always happening.
Always.
And I think that Scorpio placements, we have a gift of just knowing that that's the way of life.
Yeah.
And we count on it, in fact.
Totally. Yeah. Shit's going to be hard. So prepare for it.
Yeah. It's just going to change. It's going to change. And
That's
change is great. It's just, you keep like expanding and shedding your skin and, becoming a new creature. And I know I'm here for this.
I'm here for it too. And I wonder too, was that part of the pole dancing and movement practices and all these different somatic experiences that you share so openly about? Was that a portion of you tapping into your own self-pleasure? Like outside of like, masturbation and being naked. I mean, I like those things too.
Yes.
Like,
all of the above.
All of the above.
But yes, it was specifically 100%.
Like, what was it about the pole that was drawing you in? Do you remember?
I'll tell you. I actually, okay. So the reason that I initially even started the pole my plan was I'm going to do this for 4 weeks.
Mm,
And I'd actually taken a full year off of coaching because I thought I just need a break from all these people and their
right.
problems. And I'm
Yeah.
just like weighed down and I'm just going to create. I'm going to create music.
Mm,
That's my art. And so I went fully into artist mode and I released an album. It was the first full album
amazing.
I'd released. I wrote like 40 songs in 3 months. It was just
Wow.
waiting to pour out of me.
Channeled,
And
channeled.
yes, it just channeled.
Mhm.
And then I started performing and going back out to award shows and things. And then of course COVID happened, but that was already kind of calling me back into the coaching space, and I was very resistant. It's like,
Mm,
no, universe, no. But I just went at it from a whole different perspective this time around, as you can see. But I had a music video that I wanted to film,
mm,
and I had this vision for floor dance, chair dance, and pole dance. And so I
mm,
wanted this little 30-second portion of it to be pole dancing. And I thought, it has to be me. So I need to get proficient enough to do just a few little cool things
mm.
and comfortably. So I started, and that whole first month, I was covered in bruises. I felt
Yeah.
like I had my ass kicked. It was so hard. And here I was already someone who could lift nearly twice my body weight before this. And
Wow.
I kicked my ass. So I fell in love with it. I fell in love with it. And we shot the video. It's funny now because I'm like, oh, look at me as a beginner. So cute. But we shot the video and I kept training. And I
Mm,
felt this. So with the pole physically, there's this tension, right? So it's
mhm.
kind of like this masculine pole of the dynamic. And you're flowing with it and you're feeling it and you're exploring its smoothness and the coolness and your gripping and just everything about it's a sensual experience. And
Mm,
so I really learned how to move more sensually with intention as opposed to
mm.
learning a choreography, because
Right.
I'd been getting into choreographed dancing and especially for performances.
Mhm.
But this just helped me to really get into the flow of how my body wants to express itself in that day. So yeah, that. And I do this also off the pole, but on the pole, there's of course a lot more that you can do that's unique to that.
Mhm. Yeah, this combination of movement and stillness and how
Yeah,
they each play a very significant role. And again, it comes down to this nuance of getting to know yourself in these
yeah,
intimate ways and like what the times are calling for. And even
exactly.
that is sometimes confusing. Those impulses
Yeah,
we have, like, oh man, again, it's like a second, a blink. Oftentimes for me, because I'm a very visual person, I'll just get like an image of me doing some artwork or whatever that looks like, or I'll get an image of me going outside and rolling around in the snow, or I'll get an image of whatever it is, me playing my ukulele, because this is my new
oh,
thing right now. I'm learning how to
yes,
play it.
I
It's
love
so
that.
sweet. Oh my God. And I avoid it. I do. I avoid it. I have my partner, my husband that I live with, and he's been playing musical instruments since he was like 9, right? So he's like,
Oh,
oh, he's
nice.
like, yeah, I'm a beginner. He like held up the ukulele behind his head and was like playing the song that I've been trying to learn for weeks. I'm like, okay,
Okay, show off. No,
yeah, show off. But
is he
he's
a
a
Leo?
humble guy, but he just, it's natural for him. So natural, like
Yeah,
all of these
yeah,
instruments. And then we have our neighbor who also lives on the same property. And I said to both of them, like, I want to jam with you because I want to learn how to flow in these
yeah,
spaces of, for me, extreme uncomfortability. Like, I don't know shit about music, but I want
yeah.
to know. I'm a
You're a
lyrical
white belt.
person. Yeah, I'm a
Yes.
white belt. Yes, exactly. And
You
like
always got to be a
music,
white belt at something.
you got to start somewhere. So I called it, I planned it. And then when we went down to jam, I was like I don't know what to do. Like I don't know where to go. Like can someone just start and maybe I'll like join in? And so it's a constant. It's not like it's getting easier yet because I'm still a
Yeah.
beginner, but I have to keep forcing myself because it's
Hmm.
something that I said I wanted to do. So there's that
Yeah,
whole thing
yeah.
too.
Yeah, and
You
even
know?
that, it's like there's a difference between forcing ourselves like and hating it
Mm,
and really
loving it.
committing to our follow through, because
That's
there's
right.
such a compelling vision, that were like, no, I'm going to show up. I'm
Yeah,
going to show up.
exactly. And the whole, for me, I need deadlines.
Mhm.
So
Specific goals,
I used to
dates.
pretend that I didn't. I was like, oh yeah, I don't need no deadline. And then things would
I
just
know.
sit. But it really does help, even with ukulele. I'm like, okay, I'm a practice, and then I plan to perform at an open mic
Yes.
in
Yes.
like, a couple months from now. And so
That's so,
I've said that out loud to people who I know are going to like
oh,
hold me
yes.
accountable.
Yeah.
And I
Oh,
know it's right because I both am like, ooh, like really scared to do it, but really excited.
that's the magical combo right there.
The magical combo. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to bring that into the fold because so often we give up too soon.
Yes. Yes. And often not because this thing isn't compelling us, but because we're afraid
We're afraid,
of
yeah,
looking bad. We're afraid of sucking
right.
at something. We're
Sucking.
afraid of how
White
long it's
belts.
gonna. Yeah, yeah. And me doing jujitsu as a white belt, I competed,
Mm,
and it was a big deal for me because I'm like, I'm a
huge.
little rookie, and I'm here out there just all scrappy. And this was back like over a decade ago in Nashville. But yeah, there's a lot to be said about that, about following through with something because you are so devoted to love. So I
Hmm.
see these things as devotional acts of love.
Yeah,
When I come in here and I do my daily morning rituals every day. Now, if I am on the first couple of days of my cycle, it may look different. It does look
right.
different. It's not as maybe less intense. Everything flows perfectly for that day.
Mm.
Um, but it is a devotional practice to love. Like, I know that as I create space for that and I'm consistent with it. Same for my self-pleasure practice.
Mm.
Same for my anything that I do that is nourishing, that I know is a source of me receiving nourishment from source. Even if I don't feel like it, I show up and I'm just there with what's present. I'm just present with what's present.
Mm.
And sometimes that's all it is, and that's enough.
Yeah. Present with what's present. I often
Yeah.
find that with breath work.
Hmm.
Oh, that's another thing. The breath work
Yeah.
practices and how, just yesterday I was doing a practice and it was a short one, but it was a powerful one. And I remember I was maybe 2 minutes in, and inside I was just like, I don't want to do this. And again, it would have been really easy just to stop. I'm like, this
Yeah.
is the thing that wants to be born today. This is the thing that wants to come out of me. And I don't know exactly where this practice is going to lead to, but I do know that I'm feeling tension and resistance to it. So maybe I could go another 30 seconds. Maybe I
Yes.
can go another minute. Maybe I can just take it moment to moment and see what arises because one thing is certain, everything changes moment to moment.
Yes.
We just don't
Yes.
know how we're going to feel at the end of something or throughout. And can we just
Yeah.
allow that wave or can we ride that wave? Can we be
Yes.
present to presence?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because it's going to change.
because it's going to change. Yeah. So, ah, so many things, so many beautiful things. So I'm
Oh,
wondering, Lucy, if you could tell us more about um, your offerings, like the wild feminine embodiment, wildly sovereign, or even the conscious uncoupling, because I know these are all really poignant things that so many people are navigating right now, how to step more
yeah.
fully into themselves, how to love up on themselves, how to make a devotion to love, which I love that wording because it's in everything. It's in the singing, it's in
Yes.
the dancing, it's in the ritual, it's in the, how we walk, how we move. So I would love to hear more
Yeah.
about that.
Yes. Well, so right now the bundle that I've carefully put together, the very specific courses to help women really embody more of their sovereignty and self-love, self-healing, is the Wildly Embodied Self-Love Bundle. So that
Mm,
one has the 6 courses. So the Conscious Self-Pleasure course, Come As You Are, that one is ideal for anyone who wants to really reclaim their pleasure and use that as an access point to something higher, something bigger, something deeper, and also some profound sexual healing. So that has a lot of guided practices and teaching videos and all of that. And then there's Wild Eros. That's the Wild Feminine Embodiment course. So those who feel like they have all this feminine fire and rage and just intensity and they don't know what to do with it and how to work with it, that's the course for that. And then Wildly Sovereign is the one that just released last week, but it is evergreen. So you can start it whenever. It just came out though. And that's really about reclaiming your voice, embodying your boundaries, integrating this dark and light feminine within you, and standing in that sovereignty where it's no longer this place of like, this is what I'm gonna do, but it's like very centered in your inner wisdom. And then there are some other courses in there, like the Inner Child Healing course and a couple others that if they, would when it makes sense for them to explore. It's a lot of, processes. So I would just take one course at a time and really digest what it has to offer.
Thank you for sharing those. And I also wonder if there are other resources or any books or anything that you're just really vibing on right now. That's been super helpful.
Yes. One of my favorite books, it's kind of long, worth the read, and it's on Audible, is A Return to Eros by Mark Gaffney and Christina Kincaid. That one is you just gotta get into that one. Another one is one that I'm actually reading now. Let me see what the title is. It's this author, I also ordered her book about intimacy per a very good friend's recommendation. Her name is Sobonfu Somé, and she's this African woman. It's called Women's Wisdom from the Heart of Africa, and it's so beautiful, speaking on the initiation into womanhood and the sacredness of our bleed and womanhood and sisterhood and the spiritual journeys and all that. So those are a couple to get you started.
Thank you so much. And also within that, where can people find you if they want to come and hang out in your world and hear you talk about all the truths and all the things that are going on in your life and share some really profound teachings?
Yes. Well, the main place I like to share is on Instagram. So you can find me there at Lucy Lampe. And then my website is lucylampe.com. And that's where all the current offerings and coaching for anyone who wants more personal support will also be.
Thank you so much. I'll put those in the show notes. And I want to say, Lucy, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your story and some wisdom nuggets with us. It was a really beautiful conversation, and I'm really happy to have had it with you. So thank you.
Thank you too, Lisa. I love me some Scorpio rising. Of course we vibe.
Scorpios unite.
I tend to attract a lot of Scorpio energy, and I love it. Scorpios and Leos and Sagittarius. They're my people.
That's right. Well, have the most incredible day, and we'll be, I'm sure, connecting more on the old Instagram or wherever our paths take us next.
Yes. Thank you, Lisa.
Bye for now. As always, thank you so much for listening. Life is busy, so it means even more to me that you are here. Listen, we've got so many great episodes coming up, so please make sure that you follow along on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you are listening. And if you appreciate these episodes, please do us a favor and leave a review and share the show with anyone you think this episode would benefit. See you again next week.